Let me tell you about this book, Carjacked, by the Lutz sisters. This is a great book that summarizes all in one place what we've seen and what we know about life in America is that it revolves around cars, and unnecessarily so, wastefully so, harmfully so. You know, what the Lutz sisters do in this book is look at all of the different ways that our decision to organize our lives around private motor vehicle transport has impoverished our lives and turned us into basically tenders of motor vehicles instead of the human beings that we all aspire to be, right? You know, they talk about how many hours Americans spend commuting in traffic. And, you know, I used to work as a union organizer, and I covered the entire state of New Jersey and parts of New York City. They gave me a car, and I was driving back and forth to Camden, New Brunswick, Newark, out into Brooklyn, up into Westchester, visiting members or potential members of the union I work for, the Committee of Interns and Residents, doctors in training in hospitals. What I found is that, you know, a life spent in the car is a life lost. I was eating way too often at these rest stops on the New Jersey Turnpike, which are just horrible. I was smoking because even then, while there were rules about smoking in the workplace, you know, when you're all alone, there's nothing to hold you back from doing the most wasteful, self-destructive behaviors you can do. So when you're all alone in your car there, what are you doing? You're smoking cigarettes, you're eating junk food, you're speeding and trying to get away with it, even though you're endangering people and yourself. You know, you're probably listening to some dumb crap on the radio, like some kind of talk radio. And, you know, what I found is it was just like, it was stealing my life from me, right? And I was so glad to get out of that work, even though I loved and cared about the work I did for those unions over that 9 years. At the end of the day, it was just not for me. I think that a lot of people who do commute by car ought to stop and think about how much time they spend in there. You know, some people, I've heard them say, I like being in my car. It's my space. I can play my music or programs I like on my radio or my podcasts. I can smoke. You know, no one's telling me what to do. They view it almost as like a refuge from their family or other responsibilities. And that's the way that the car manufacturers want it to be viewed, as it's your idyllic little bubble where no one else tells you what to do. But when you look at it in reality, you're getting told what to do all the time. You're paying through the nose to keep that car on the road with gas, insurance, maintenance, repairs, tickets, soot, pollution, everything else. We're all paying, not to mention the death and injuries caused by private motoring. You know, the fact that people view it as some kind of an escape from life is an unbelievable paradox. If you read this book, it will open your eyes to that paradox. You will see how much of Americans' disposable income that they can barely afford is diverted away from simple things like nutrition and the necessities of life into just transporting themselves back and forth to work. Well, if you think that you work enough, then you have a right to expect that when you pay your taxes, government is going to use that money to build a reasonable transportation system that doesn't require every single person to individually keep an eye on all the variables that could result in a crash or not, every second of the way from home until work. It is the most inefficient system compared to having one bus driver or one train conductor responsible for the safety of hundreds or even thousands of people. What a system where one person's moment of inattention could result in a crash that will cause so many people half an hour of waiting in traffic. Spread that across all the people. It's a huge hit to productivity. But somehow we think it's best because it yields the greatest freedom. The freedom to sit in what amounts to a parking lot, inching along. There's so much out there that will help raise the wool from your eyes. I'm talking to you, driving every day. It doesn't have to be that way. You can change your way of getting around. You can stop putting all your money into the car, feeding the insurance companies, the car companies, the gas companies, the service station, everyone else. You can put it behind you. There are alternatives.